Taking you to Capitol Hill now, where a floor vote could come as early as tomorrow in the Speaker of the House fight that's nearing 2 weeks at this point. Congressman Jim Jordan now racing to try to win over roughly 40 GOP holdouts after Republicans nominated him on Friday. This after Congressman Steve Scalise dropped out. He struggled to flip enough votes, so it's been a big back and forth here for a couple weeks now. Let's bring in Mick Mulvaney. He was the acting White House chief of staff for President Trump, and then Chris Hahn, former senior aide for Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. Both are NewsNation political contributors for us. Mick, let me start with you. House Republicans are reportedly meeting again today, but again, that next vote won't be until tomorrow at noon. Can Jim Jordan get to 217? I mean, surely he faces the same math problem Scalise did, if not worse, because he lost to him in the original nominating contest.
Yeah, Markie, he does face a lot of the same challenges. It's unlikely that he's going to get the votes, but if he does, here's why he would. Jim Jordan is amongst the most right-wing conservative members of the House, but he's not crazy. He's not lumped in with the Matt Gaetzes of the world, and even the moderates know that. During the last exchange between Scalise and Jordan, what I was hearing from the folks on the Hill was that while Jim didn't get as many yes votes as Steve Scalise did, Jordan had fewer hard no votes against him. So maybe there were folks who were willing to consider him. I don't think he gets there just because of the math, as you mentioned. But if he does, it will be because he's a conservative who's not nuts.
Yeah. Well, let's see if Chris Hahn agrees with that, him not being nuts. Chris, how does this next round of voting play out? And also, House Democrats have been ripping Jim Jordan, claiming their colleagues are once again, not my words, theirs, once again choosing Donald Trump. But didn't they set the stage for this nomination, or anybody else's for that matter, by voting to oust Kevin McCarthy in the first place?
Republicans have to have their own leadership fight. It's not for Democrats to save them here. If Republicans want to have a sensible leader, 10 of them should cross the aisle and vote for Hakeem Jeffries, and they will have sensible leadership in the House of Representatives. Probably not going to happen, as Mick and I have discussed here before, but I disagree. Jim Jordan is absolutely crazy. John Boehner referred to him as a legislative terrorist. He was involved with the planning stages, perhaps, of overthrowing the 2020 election, and he will be doomed for the 19 Republican lawmakers who represent districts won by Joe Biden, which is why I don't believe he will get the votes to be Speaker of the House either. So they're going to have to come up with some sort of compromise. Perhaps Patrick McHenry gets to stay there for a little while in some limited capacity as acting Speaker. Or perhaps there is some sort of power-sharing agreement reached with the Democratic Party on the other side of the aisle. But whatever happens needs to happen soon. We are in serious times right now. We need serious leadership in the House of Representatives. And I don't believe Jim Jordan is a serious legislator. Voting for him is voting for shutting down the government. It's voting against aid to Ukraine. And it's voting for paralysis in Washington when this nation needs leadership.
Yeah, I know. I think a lot of Americans are just tired of this, especially, nobody being able to coalesce around a specific candidate at a time where we're watching all of these wars and conflicts unfold in Israel and Ukraine still. Mick, some Republicans have floated this idea of a deal with Democrats if they can't agree on a speaker. I know Representative Mike Turner floated that idea around on the Sunday shows just this weekend. How likely is that we could see some sort of deal come to fruition, and what would that need to look like?
The chances of finding a deal are pretty good. The House knows they've got about a week maybe left to deal with this. They have not been impacted yet in terms of their ability to deal with Israel. Keep in mind the Senate wasn't even in Washington, D.C. last week, so it hasn't really had an impact on running the country or governing the country. It will in the next couple of, say, week to 10 days. So they know they've got a window, and if they don't solve the problem, they're going to have to look at plans B and C, and that could include a compromise candidate. I doubt very seriously it would be Hakeem Jeffries, but it might be a centrist candidate that sort of carves the middle out of both parties. I think the most likely outcome, as Chris probably mentioned, is that Patrick McHenry, who's the temporary speaker, would be given enough authority to discuss funding the government and dealing with Israel, and then let the rest of these matters go over until the Republicans can find a proper replacement and a permanent replacement at Speaker.
And for those watching who aren't as well versed in politics, when you say a compromise candidate and the timeline is 7 to 10 days, will we have some sort of answer within that timeline?
My point is that you'll have to. Right now,
Okay.
this is not costing the government anything. There was nothing to vote on for Israel. There's nothing really yet to vote on that's immediately pressing for funding the government. But those things will change in the next week or so as Israel starts asking for money and material, and we get closer to the government funding deadline in the middle of November. That's the deadline they're dealing with. They needed to fix this before those things are impacted.
Yeah, and
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.